All right. This is Guerrilla Garage. My name is Mike. I am your host for the foreseeable future. This is take 2. On a video about replacing weather stripping on your wing window. I'm going to try to insert a clip here earlier. I ended up snapping off this bolt and the stand that comes off the wing window frame portion, and it went flying. I'll insert that clip right here. It's pretty funny. It was aggravating but funny at the same time. So down here at the bottom is a nut it's a 1/2 inch nut. Well, there goes that video. So this is take 2, and I've now since ordered a new window frame that has a new stud, new hardware from Classic Parts Industries. Not affiliated, not sponsored. Just one of the few places you can find this for halfway decent price. So now that because there was so much, there wasn't a lot of information on the internet on how to change these weather stripping out on the wing windows, and I'm learning that each frame is a little bit different in how to put on the weather stripping. So in this video, I'm going to do show you how I do it. This is off a 1984 K20 I used to have, some old doors I had out by the shed, and yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of Guerrilla Garage touch to it, because every video I've seen on how to change rivets out and stuff, because I'm going to break this down to pulling all the frame apart, cleaning it, painting it, a whole 9 yards, and trying to reinstall some rivets I got from also, I believe, Classic Industries or Brothers or something like that, and this little punch kit to squish the rivets out. Doesn't exactly work on this frame of an 84 K20, but just want to show you, so there's another video out there on how to do it, and sometimes you just got to make it work with what you have. So let's get into it. So this is the wing window I have left to do. I believe this is a driver's side window here, and as you can see, when I was taking it off, I did another strong Ranger moment and just monkey gripped the bolt, and it came snapping right off instead of thinking about lubrication or maybe even some heat. So imagine this little frame. This is part of that stud that comes down that I broke off, and we'll go through the process here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a zip tie off one of the videos I saw on the interwebs. I thought this was a great idea, and so we're going to take this off and use this zip tie to thread through to keep track of the order that this came out in. And I'm also hoping there's also some additional washers in here, one that has a special shape to it that helps, you know, the window from overextending the direction. If you put it in backwards, it's going to not work properly, but we'll go over that. So I'm going to go over and talk about using the zip tie and how to keep track of this stuff. So let me grab a wrench. Looks like 14 millimeters is the closest one on this one. Go ahead and undo this lower bolt. Once you take it off, what I'm going to do is thread it onto the zip tie. What comes off next is a washer. Go ahead and put that on the zip tie so you know the order. You notice these washers are slotted in a way that conforms to the stud here because it has a flat side on both sides. Then what comes off next is more of a lock washer. When you finally put this back together, you bend the tabs over on the nut so that it does not turn off on its own. I'll demonstrate that as we put it back together. Then what comes off next is your spring. And it looks like this new set has the washers, the special washers. So you got another washer, then you got the special shaped washer here that when I take this apart, I'll show you where it goes. Because it actually goes between this lower frame here and up in here. So as it pivots, it locks it from overextending one way or the other. So once you got all your hardware, because this will also help you put it back together correctly, you can go ahead and zip tie this up so you don't lose anything. We'll go ahead and snip this when we're ready to put it back together. Okay, so if that was using this new one, if this was the guy who pulled all the hardware off the bottom, you still got here, but you also still attached up here at the top. What I'm going to do is take a drill bit and drill out that rivet. Because once we pop that rivet to put it back together, also I think it's Brothers where I got it from, there's a special rivet that helps with it's called a pivot rivet. So let's put this off the side so I don't lose it. Let me grab a drill bit. I'm going to carefully drill out this rivet. Real quick, I'll show you. I don't know if it'll show up, but there's a flat spot on the top part of this pivot rivet, and the bottom has a concave that's been mushroomed out, and that's what I'm drilling out, is that portion right there. Very carefully, so I'm just trying to break the rivet so it'll pop out freely. I'm going to move to a slightly bigger drill bit. Get more of that mushroom portion of the rivet. Just working my way up in size. All right, it finally popped. Put that right there. Grab a small screwdriver, pry out on the top portion, and it popped right out. So now that we have that free, I can rotate the wing window and start to work its way out. I'm going to try to hold it up here so you can see underneath the rubber here is the two special washers that came new with the new window frame. Trying to take this out so I'm not losing those washers in their place. So basically, this washer with the flat end of it, the flat end goes towards the curved portion of the wing window frame. And what it does, like it says, is it pivots. It doesn't allow it to over pivot the wrong direction. What I'm doing here is that when I snap the bolt, it left an edge on that stem for that window frame. Just trying to flatten it out. Alright, there you go. So, like I said, the kit comes with new washer, new flat washer, but what it does, it stacks like this and sits in just like this. That's important orientation when you put it back together. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start stripping some of this weather stripping off so I get a bare frame. And then I'll be drilling out some rivets down here as well as up here. Alright, now that I got that channel, window channel weather stripping out, inside here a bunch of little tangs that hold in this inside weather strip here. All I'm doing is bang those tabs up. Now we got those tabs out. Let's see if I can pry this open. Like someone put some weather stripping adhesive down. Clean that up. I'm not going to use that because I don't think it's necessary. But all right, in order to get this out, we're going to have to take the frame apart the rest of the way. Again, there's two rivets down here holding this outer frame, and also up here at the top. Now I got to drill out. All right, finally got them apart. I did stick in a vise. I used a punch to center myself on the rivet and started drilling out the small bit and a larger bit. And one was actually off center a little bit, so I actually took a grinder to it a little bit. As you can see here, but the rivets are really soft, so it didn't take much to get down. And once I got down to the flat portion of the frame, it was easy to either pry it out with a screwdriver and or punch it out with a small punch. So this frame here is pretty much down complete. On this one, it's all about this weather stripping. And so let me get this off. It's already been cracked and brittle. And Comes off just like that. Now what I gotta figure out how to do is I gotta drive this pin out and take, I don't know if I have to take this off right now, but I gotta get this glass out of this frame because I broke the stud on it. So I'm gonna try to figure that out. All right, we're back. I ended up getting the frame separated, the broken frame separated from the glass. It's a combination between a razor blade and some heat, soften up the butyl rubber. So just take your time, heat it up, soften it up, run the blade continuously through it. You know, this butyl rubber in here is pretty old and crusty. So yeah, just take your time. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to toss this frame because I got a new one, and I'm going to take these and scuff them up and shoot them with some black real quick. So I'll be back once that's all dried up and ready to put back together. All right, it's another day. Yesterday I took apart this wing window, and I went out and got, spray painted the necessary parts that are going to be exposed. They're a little surface rusted, just went out and painted. I wanted to give that paint ample opportunity to dry. So today we're going to start installing a 2-piece wing window weather stripping kit. This comes with the angle kit, and the piece comes with the vertical piece as well. So this is going to be your most time consuming part. I think taking it apart is pretty basic, pretty straightforward. But getting this weather stripping into here that's where it took me the longest. What I'm going to use for this is I've got some soapy cleaner, and don't recommend using any kind of like WD-40 or anything that could do unnecessary breakdown of the weather stripping, the rubber. Yesterday off camera I went ahead and put the glass in the new frame, and I talked about the taking it apart real quick about the butyl rubber being all crusty and rusted. Again, I ended up just taking a heat gun and a box knife of some sort. On this one here, look, I live 40 minutes away from any hardware store, and I totally forgot to get butyl rubber to replace this. So I did, I took a term I use called guerrilla effect. It's just getting stuff done. I usually say with the S-H-I-T word, but so instead of butyl tape, I just took electrical tape and layered it up until it was nice and firm in here and didn't have any slop in it, and trimmed it down. You can't even tell. And first time I've done it that way, but I guess we'll find out, because I did not want to drive 40 minutes each way to a Home Depot or Lowe's to find butyl rubber. Error on my part not getting ready, but that's what I did. Again, even the first one, I didn't take out the glass from the frame because the frame was all right, but yeah, I still used a method that you'll see later on putting this together. That isn't the way factory did it, but it works, because the way factory wants you to put it back together with the rivets, it's just dang near impossible. So if you look here, inside here on these weather stripping channels, at least in the corner portion, you got these slotted inner portion that slides into the channel of the frame. And what we're going to do is work on this bottom portion, getting it into the corner here, and then the rest of it you want to pry in there and get it seated. I don't have any of those fancy plastic tools to get it in there, and I know they don't recommend using a screwdriver, but I use a screwdriver, just being very careful, and lots of soapy water or something like that. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to soak the inside of this channel with this soapy solution, just like that. Going to take the frame, or this way. You're going to start here in the corner, right up in here, get this channel locked in there, and start pushing it onto the frame. Let me get some of this soapy solution onto the frame. And you're just going to slowly slide it on. The more soapy solution you have, the more it gets on your hand. It's going to be a little slicker, but it's just really guiding it on, pushing it on. Until you get it in there. I don't have a trick or a secret to get this on any easier. Just use any method that is available to you, like pulling and pushing. Keep checking to make sure it doesn't come out of the channel. You're going to keep doing that until this portion gets in the corner of the frame, or this part of the rubber gets flush with the end of the frame. Is a good place to stop on this initial install. And let's see if I can get the camera to see this. And it's pretty flush in there. That's where I'm going to stop. Well, you only got this part. It's in the channels here. And the rest, I'm going to continue to soap up. Let me get you a better angle down here. And this is where you're going to continue to soap up and use some kind of prying tool to get it locked in place. I'm going to go ahead and soap this down. Then I just peel back the outer portion so I can see where it's supposed to go in the groove, and then I'll just start pushing down on the outside of the weather stripping right here with my hands and fingers while trying to pry in one end of the weather stripping into the groove. For me, this took a little bit of time because I got to do that, then I got to flip it over and do the same to the other side, the same amount that I did on the flip side. And you just got to be careful you don't end up pulling it out. Another thing I did every once in a while on the last one was, once I get this initial flap over, if I felt prudent, take some electrical tape and just go around the weather stripping and the frame just to keep the weather stripping from pulling away from the frame as you're trying to pry the groove of the weather stripping into the frame. Just to give you a better view of what I'm doing here, is this little channel right here has got to get pushed into the channel of the frame. So that's all I'm doing right there, is literally just trying to pry that into the groove frame or the C-channel frame with my screwdriver on both sides all the way to the end. So that's all I'm doing. There you have it. So what's next is you're going to take this vertical portion of your wing window. Basically, we're going to be putting it back together. All right, I'm back. I had to do a little bit more grinding on the bottom down here and punch the rest of that rivet out that I took apart yesterday. So now we're going to start putting these back together. You're trying to line up the rivet points here at the top first. And what the factory wants you to do is use these little rivets and this little punch thing you can get. Let's see, where'd I put it? And somehow get it behind some force and mushroom the back side of it. And what I ended up doing on the other one was I was kind of able to get something like a socket in here and get one on here, but I ended up tack welding that bottom portion. And I sure as heck tried up here. And it wasn't, and I tried using just a rivet gun on this, or plain old rivet on this one, just a regular rivet with a rivet gun. I got two in there, but it wasn't very sturdy, so I ended up tack welding that as well. So that's what we're going to do again today. And this is what I was talking about before, about the factory wants you to do it one way. I don't see how they do it. The couple videos I've seen someone putting these together, the frame was a little bit different, or they would cut away and not show how they riveted these parts together. They just kind of like threw the rivet in there and got this up on it behind some backing and somehow got it in, and then they come back and it's magically done. So I'm going to struggle through this right here, get my rivet gun set up out, or my little rivet punch. I'm going to rivet these two together. I'll probably get one down here at the bottom, and then I'm going to break out the welder and tack weld it. All right. I'm back. So, like I said, it's just a standard rivet. I can't tell you what size rivet these are. I've lost my labeling on this, but again, I don't know how you're supposed to get these in there and something behind it with the weather stripping on, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Again, I mean, these, trying to find the right size rivet for these is, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a rivet guy, so I'm sure you can find one that's a little tighter, snugger fit. But this will generally get the frame held in place until I can get a tack weld on it. These never seem to line up too flat, or at least on the last one did, but this one's doing a lot better. I'm going to try a standard rivet on this one. Last time I used a deep weld socket that fit in the channel down here as a backing, through the rivet in there at an off angle, because as you can see, the angle of this wing window doesn't really allow you to get in there straight. So I will try this, at least in one of them. All right, the way you want to put this weather stripping in here is, this is kind of like a little L shape or whatever. So you got these prongs here that go through the frame here that bends the tabs. You want this flat portion against this way, with this flap against this part of the frame, wing window frame. What that does is the glass is going to sit in there, and that's what's going to create the seal. So the catch with this one is you just can't lay it in there and work. On each end of this weather stripping, there's a portion. I think I can show it here. But there's a portion of the weather stripping that this channel will sit down in. It's like a little, let's see if I can see here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little pocket right there on that side. And we have another pocket on this side as well that you want that to sit in. Again, the L shape fits into the L shape portion of this linear front part of the frame. And you're going to have to do a little bit of bending to get it in there, because this has a little bit, some kind of metal in it to help hold retention, rigidity, or bend a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and use some soapy water or some kind of lubricant. Get it started, I like to start at one end, start seeing those little prongs into their home. Sometimes I might need a little help when you get down to the end. Just like that. It's pretty straightforward. And inside the frame here, you can see little indentures, which way they want you to push the little tongs to hold in place. I like to use some assistance to hold it as flat as possible. Not a lot of pressure on that. So as not to ruin the frame. Then I'm going to push. I don't know if that's showing up there, but I'm going to push this down a little bit. And just like that, all your weather stripping is replaced. Now it's time to get the wing window in here. So as the wing window sits, this is the outside, this is the inside. That's where, because we get, you got your locking plate right here. You want to come in from the outside and start feeding this post of your window frame, and there's a hole in there through there. Now this is a good time to also get your hardware out that you put on your zip tie at the beginning. Go ahead and cut that open. Trying to locate the hole. I'm going to try to get some lubrication in here. So you're going to set it down to where it starts poking through, because you want to get these first two. Remember, it's reverse of the way you took it out. So this is going to go in, this little D shape is going to go in first, but remember we talked about at the beginning, the flat portion goes towards the bend in the frame. But underneath it is a washer as well. I'm going to kind of slide them both in at the same time. It sits in between this little triangle. Found it. And it slides right in. Just like that. Try to get the seat all the way. And I'm going to get it back in camera view. What I'm trying to do is push it down to where the pivot point up here on the window is below the pivot point on the frame. That's how you're going to want to put that pivot rivet in. Because that way it'll pivot this way. All right, once you get that into that point, I'll go ahead and, let me see if I can get this angled right. I'll go ahead and start adding the additional hardware. Throw your spring on, then your little lock washer, regular washer, but still shaped on the inside because it's got flat spots on both sides of that post, and then your nut. And all I'm doing is getting it started. This is a nut you're going to tighten to increase or decrease your tension on how your wing window opens up. And once you get a fine desired spot, you're going to want to lock these tabs. You're going to want to lock these tabs down onto the nut. But we're just going to leave it like that for right now until we get this pivot rivet set. Okay. Now they sell a kit for these, or separately these special. It looks like the other rivet, but supposedly it's a pivot rivet. So we're going to go ahead and slide that in right there. Now you got to get something behind it where you can use that same punch with a little pointed end on there to mushroom out the bottom. I grabbed my blocking plates from my press, or you can use a metal table or anything really. What I'm going to try to do is set it up on it. This is where another time gets interesting because you're trying to hold it up. Second set of hands definitely helps. And you're trying to get it on there without breaking your glass. Flexing this. Trying to use the vice grips to mushroom it out. That's a little better. Let me see if I can clean it up now. It's not pretty, but I feel like I got the least amount of deflection. So that's how I install these the weather stripping. The weather stripping itself is pretty straightforward. For me, it's the rivets. I don't understand the kits that come with it. I'm going to keep saying it, keep complaining about it. But sometimes you got to think outside the box. Little tack welds here on the frame to hold them together, I think is quite all right. Because if you have to get in there with a die grinder, or if you're changing these out again, you can just use your cutoff wheel and off it comes. Pretty simple. This one I had to take out the hardware, connecting hardware to get the old frame off, but I got new hardware I'm going to put in. Not going to cover in this video, but again, that's it. That's how you rebuild your frames. It's not bad. I'm going to clean it up, a little, cleaner and towel, and yeah, it looks good. Maybe another video will see me install it in the C10. I really appreciate you taking the time to view this. I try to keep it as straightforward as possible. A lot of dead spots I'm going to freaking put it into like a time-lapse type deal, but that's how I did it. Sometimes you got to think outside the box a little bit, get it done, and it works. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully we'll see you around next time. All right, I appreciate you guys if you guys watch this video, but I do need to make a correction on my installation. When installing on the bottom here the spring for the tensioner of the wing window, I had put the lock washer on first and then the washer. The washer needs to go on next to the spring, and then the lock washer that tabs go over the nut, goes on right before the nut. That way it can lock in that nut. It doesn't really bend over the washer that well if it's right next to the spring. So again, D-shaped spring, regular washer, spring on this other side, washer, locking washer, and then your nut. All right, correction made. Thanks.